It's time for Chained No More, a place to find people who genuinely care about you and what you are living. Everybody has stuff, so let's talk about it. Welcome to a place you will find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from your stuff and help you move forward. Your host, Robyn is the author of Chained No More, a journey of healing for the adult children of divorce and childhood brokenness. Robyn has had many years of experience of ministry to single-parent families, as well as mentoring and teaching women and kids. Robyn and her expert guests will not beat you over the head with a Bible, but will combine faith and practical tools to help you with topics such as issues of divorce, relationships, single parenting, step families, abuse, and other personal struggles. Robyn is ready to help you believe in who God says you are and not what anyone or anything has ever told you. So sit back, relax, and be encouraged and enlightened today on Chained No More. Now, here's your host, Robyn Biesman.
Hello, and welcome to Chained No More. We're really glad you tuned into the show today, and we hope you'll be encouraged by what you hear and what you learn. The stats are high, really high, for divorce in our world. And within the devastation of divorce, it can become difficult to know even how to maneuver through the maze of breakups, court hearings, child custody issues. I'm sure many of you can relate. Throughout the coming weeks and months, we will be discussing a lot of these subjects, along with issues surrounding them. I've always said that children pay the highest price. They did absolutely nothing to cause the divorce of their parents or the shattering of their family, nor do they know how to walk through it. Last week, we talked about the effects divorce has on kids. That podcast can be downloaded on toginet.com. Issues in our adult lives many times begin when they're kids. Whether these issues came from their parents' divorce, abuse, neglect, abandonment, etc., those issues follow us all of our lives. Many times we have let these experiences actually define us. Now that is why I wrote the books Chained No More, a journey of healing for the adult children of divorce and childhood brokenness. I saw the pain in the kids when I led divorce care for kids, and the big D, divorce through the eyes of a teen. Now I see the pain in the adults who have lived through the same things when they attend our Chained No More classes. You can take a look at and purchase Chained No More, whether it is the small group curriculum or the self-discovery version on my Robyn B. Ministries site. It's www.robynbministries.com. Amazon, you can get it there, or any other bookseller's website. Today, however, the first part of our show is about how to parent our kids well when we are going through divorce. The second portion is going to address how children's workers, churches, and other ministries can make a huge impact on hurting kids and family trauma. Our returning guest is Ranson-Jacobs. We had such a good time last week, we decided to do this again. She is certainly an expert on kids in trauma and crisis. She developed and wrote Divorce Care for Kids, or DC4K, as we call it, a program for elementary age kids, and is a popular speaker at conferences around the United States. Her blogs can be found at blog.dc4k.org, and she also has a phenomenally helpful website, which is www.hlp4.com. I recommend these blogs regularly. Ranson-Jacobs lives in sunny California, which she loves to brag about, has experience as a wife, a mother, and a grandma. She was a single mom, once by divorce and once by death, and she's also a stepmom. So on a personal level, she does get it. She understands the challenges and will share many tools today that she has learned over the years. I cannot wait for what this conversation is going to bring to you today. Welcome, my friend, ministry mentor, and guest, Ranson-Jacobs. Hey, Linda.
Hey, Robyn. Glad to be here again. Can't wait to talk about this issue.
I know. I've been so excited about this. There was great feedback and great response to last week's group. What am I talking about today? Can I just wake up just a minute here? But the phone call, the phone call and the chat. I mean, it was amazing last week, Linda, of all the things that was brought up, and I know that it's been very, very helpful to our listeners. We have heard the term "children are resilient," Do you think that children of divorce are resilient? And what would you say to parents about the resilience of their children regarding divorce? Let's start there.
Well, yes and no. Back in the 70s, when we went full force with divorce in the United States, and then Governor Ronald Reagan signed the no-fault divorce decree, everybody came out with children are resilient. Just, as long as the parents are happy, the children are going to be resilient. That's not exactly true. What we found out through research and down through the years are children of divorce are resilient and other traumatic issues. They're resilient when they have a support system around them. So that support system could be the church family. It could be a child care program that understands what's going on in the child's life. It could be grandparents, extended family, but they have to have a support system around them, not just people, a support system around them. This is why I think Divorce Care for Kids, DC4K, is so successful, because these children come in and they find out they're not the only one. And they have other children around them. Every time I've ever led it, at the end when I ask the kids what they've learned, one thing, somebody always says, I learned I'm not alone. There are other kids that have the same problems that I have. So, yes and no.
I did see that in the classes as they walked into the room and they were really nervous, and it wasn't long before they saw other kids feeling the same way they did, and they could bond with them in a way. I know that kids, I always think about kids are resilient from a broken arm, but not from a broken heart. It is so difficult for them to work through this. That's why I love DC4K, because it did help them process, and it did help their hearts and to heal. Last week we talked about the effects of divorce on children. Now today we talk about how parents can help them through it and what to do and what not to do. That's a huge thing. So what are the top 3 things single parents do that make things so much harder for their hurting kids?
Well, I think the first thing is they try to pull the children into what I call the divorce war. The warring parents fighting back and forth. Well, your dad said, your mom did. Why does your mom need to buy this? Why? It's all these questions that children should not be put in that position. The divorce is between the parents, not the children. So making the children your confidant is just the worst thing you can do for a child. I don't care if they're 15, 18, 29, 54. They should not be the confidant for the parent. The parent should be talking to lawyers, counselors, ministers, somebody else, not the child. And I think another thing is many single parents start dating too soon. They don't heal. They want to get out and start their life over. Many just think, well, if I just had another wife, I just had another husband, I just had another man in my life, everything would be fine. So they start dating too soon. The children are not ready for this. Many of them marry too soon. The children are not ready for this. And then I think a third issue that single parents don't realize, I know I certainly did not realize, is many times you're just so upset, depressed, angry, that you don't work through those issues. And as long as you stay like that, it's confusing to the child. I know there are probably 6 months, I don't even know what my children ate for dinner at night, because I could just barely get home and get up the steps to the bedroom, and not realizing that my children were suffering at that time. So I think that's a big mistake parents make in helping the children, especially at the beginning of the divorce process.
I agree with everything of that. Because of what I learned from you and all the other ones in those conferences I went to, I started Family Connection, Single Parent Family Ministry, and I saw a lot of what you just talked about. Now I had someone in my class, in my Chain No More class, who she remembers when she was going through divorce, and all she knew is that she had to keep her job, she had to keep the house going, she had to keep the car running, she had to do all these things, and she never really dealt with the grief of her own divorce because she was working through trying to just take care of the kids. And it isn't until she's in her mid-40s now where she's finally being able to work through some of that and come to healing. So it's just so deep. It's just so involved, isn't it, Linda?
It is, and just kind of a little bit of a humorous story. When I was putting together Divorce Care for Kids, which was, my daughter was 12, and so by this time she was an adult. She was married and had her own children. And so every few weeks I would call and I would apologize, and I would say, oh, I just didn't realize. And so finally one day she goes, Mother, get over yourself. We are doing fine.
Oh, kids can do that to you, can't they? That's great. What are the top 3 things do you think single parents do that make things so much worse? We talked about that, but now share some things that parents can and should do to help their kids process through the devastation they are feeling.
one of the best things that the parent can do is find help for themselves. And, of course, I'm a divorce care fan. I didn't have divorce care when I went through my divorce. But help yourself heal. Help yourself understand what's going on. That way you have a support system around you. You're with other people that are experiencing the same things that you're experiencing. And divorce care is a healing program to help you get through that time. Some people have to repeat it. Some people go through it 3 times. So get help for yourself. Then once you kind of realized where you're at and you look up, you wake up and you're a single mom or a single dad and you have these children either all the time or every other week or part-time or every other weekend and Wednesday nights, you're still single parenting. So you need to establish routines. See, routines lend themselves to security and safety for the child. The child literally needs to know what's coming next. And children will learn quickly what's coming next in mom's home, what's coming next in dad's home. And they can be different routines, but each person needs a routine. Like when the child goes to school, they have a routine with Mrs. Smith, and they go to after school, and they have a routine with Mrs. Jones, and, they understand routines. So establishing a routine. Also, single parents need to start developing some rituals, even if it's just a high five every morning when the child leaves, or a pat on the back when they come home, or something that is done every time at approximately the same time every day becomes a ritual. Dr. Becky Bailey says rituals are the emotional glue that holds relationships together. And I think that's particularly true for children of divorce. Other things is just set some boundaries in your discipline. And I hope single moms don't get mad at me, but single dads really are better in this area than single moms. Maybe because they're unemotional, but single dads get routines established. Their house may not be clean, but they get routines established, and they also discipline without emotion. Single moms, because God created us this way, we tend to be more emotional. We let the kids get by a little bit more. But single parents need boundaries. Whether you're a single mom, single dad, you need boundaries in your discipline for your children. Children feel safe when there's boundaries. They feel safe when they know what the discipline policies are.
I highly respect single parents. I really do. It's really, really difficult. We only have about a minute before the first break, but what are some good resources for single parents in helping them with their hurting kids?
Singleandparenting.org. Singleandparenting.org is a 13-week program to help you become a single parent. On the singleparenting.org website is a thing called Rest for Single Parents. It gives you tips on parenting. It gives you tips on creating a single-parent home. Of course, I think divorce care, like I said, is great. Divorcecare.org, you can sign up for helpful devotions. 365 days will come to you every day. It's free. Helps you understand what you're going through. There's sections on parenting. Of course, I think DC4K.org and HLP4.org. I have devotions on HLP4. For single parents. Those are just a few resources.
All right, we're going to break now. So we will be talking about the churches later on.
Host and author Robyn Beesman returns after this short break.
Do holidays and celebrations get you down and leave you feeling frazzled? Then join Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon, 11 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Sandy will help you discover the secrets to having the celebrations you've always dreamed of while adding fun and meaning to your life. From Valentine's Day to Christmas to special family events, Sandy Fowler will show you how to put the fun and meaning back into those special days by taking a look at what we can do to turn the upcoming holidays into cherished memories and show us how to allow it to intertwine with everyday life. For more on the show, Sandy, and to receive Sandy's Holiday Happiness booklet, go to heartfilledholidays.com. Then get set to discover the secrets to creating happy holidays and happy everydays by joining Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time on TogiNet.com.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors. All quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
Welcome back to a place you'll find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from the stuff that gets in the way of your making emotional progress. Now with more of today's Chained No More, Robyn Beesman.
Hi, we're talking with Linda Jacobs today. There's so much to talk about the effects of divorce on children, about parenting, and we have so many shows coming up. They're going to be giving you resources and helping. But what we want to do now, Linda has written a book called Attract Families to Your Church and Keep Them Coming Back. I am impressed with this book. I did read it, and it gives so many tools. I started Family Connections, which was a single-parent family ministry in our church, and I learned so much of what I did there, Linda, by what I learned from you and many of the other presenters. I was going through a maze. I really didn't understand, but I learned so much, and I saw what a church can do for single-parent families when they feel like they don't even belong in the building, and they came in and felt like they were accepted and cared about. And I am excited to talk about this subject. Could you tell us how you wrote the book, and then tell us about your book and where our listeners can purchase it?
Well, I was contacted by Abington Press to write a book, and I thought it would be a book about single-parent families, but no. They said they wanted me to write a book about all the different types of families that churches don't attract to their facility anymore. So I started doing a lot of research and realized there wasn't a book out there like this. So I started putting things together, a lot of experience, started talking to people, went back to a lot of my notes and workshops and churches I had been in. And I like to say to pastors, you show me in the Bible where there was a two-parent family with 1.5 kids in a corner lot in the suburbs, because they aren't in the Bible. Dysfunctional families are in the Bible. Yep. And yet our churches, that's just one thing that we've not reached out. So anyway, I put together this book, and I was in North Carolina in January doing a conference, and one of the ladies said to me, she was a children's pastor, she said, I read your book. I was thinking it was for senior pastors. She said, I have to tell you, this book opened my eyes to what is out in our community more than anything else has in a long time, because I just didn't realize all the kinds of families. The grandparents parenting again, the single grandma that's been divorced and now is parenting her grandchildren, maybe second and third generations, the boomer generations. And then, of course, the single parent, the single mom, the single dad, the cohabiting situations. The list goes on and on of people that we're not reaching. So that's really what the book is about, and how to open your doors in your church to reaching these different families.
When we're talking about this, those of you listeners who do not work with kids in a church, but maybe work with kids in other venues, you can glean many things from Linda and what she's about to talk about to understand, implement, and help the hurting kids in your care. I had an 87-year-old woman, I think I talked about last week a little bit, and there were many grandmas in that group, Linda, in that Chain No More group, that never told anybody that their parents had divorced, because you just didn't tell people that. And they've carried all of this for so long. So I love that we can help churches reach out to these families. Why do you think a church family is so important to the children of divorce?
Well, church family, if a family has been in church, the children are used to going, they're used to the people in the church. And if there's a divorce, many people leave the church that they belong to as a married family, or one spouse will stay in the church, another spouse will go somewhere else. So I think a church can become a safe place and more like a substitute family temporarily. I know for both of my children, the church played an important role. People in the church played an important role in their life. And I see this in churches today that embrace divorce care, DC4K. These children think they're divorced. You'll hear them say, I'm divorced. When we got divorced, and I'm going to divorce care tonight. One little kindergarten boy in our group keeps calling it divorce care, not DC4K. That's a safe place for the weak. That's where he knows he can go and be listened to. He doesn't have to worry about mom. He doesn't care about dad hurting somebody's feelings. And that's what a church can be. Sunday school, Vacation Bible School, all those programs can surround a church, can surround a child as a church family.
I think the stereotype of single parents, what it used to be at least in my experience, is that they're poor people that need help and all they're going to ask for is money and all the, that whole thing. And what I found with doing Family Connections was that the number one thing they needed was acceptance. They didn't feel they belonged there. They didn't feel they were good enough. They feel they messed up and God wouldn't forgive them or love them. And that's what I found the church became for them through Family Connections and through what you're talking about, that you are accepted here. Everybody has stuff. You're welcome here just like anybody else. What can churches do to incorporate the child of divorce into their church family?
Well, one thing, as we move into this part of the conversation that I need to make you aware of is Elizabeth Marquardt did an incredible study, children of divorce, adult children of divorce, and she wrote a great book called Between Two Worlds. And one thing that she realized in her book and research is many adult children of divorce said they felt the rejection from the church hurt almost as much as the rejection of their parents, the divorce, because they didn't feel comfortable. I know my own daughter said, I felt like I had a big D on my forehead, divorce.
Yes.
So one thing that churches can do is, whether you set up a separate single-parent ministry or you incorporate those single parents into the church, is make them feel warm and make them feel comfortable and accepted. I think children need relationships, and they need connections, and they need understanding from the church. I know for my own son, he told me one Sunday, he was a teenager, and he goes, you know what, Mom? Every Sunday, Mr. Harmon puts his hand on my shoulder, and he says, how you doing, son? Son, how you doing? And that was a connection between a deacon in our church, but also from a man who had been his dad's best friend. So that one man made such a difference in my son's acceptance of the church being there for him. So I just think understanding and connecting with these kids. We have a man in our church now that's a greeter. I'm telling you, when those kids of divorce walk out, their eyes just get big and bright because he is ready. He knows which ones. He hugs them. He's like grandpa to them. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing better that can happen when they walk in that door than seeing Papa Gary standing at the door.
I found a great connection with grandparents and kids, and I know that in DC4K we had Papa Joe and Grandma Ann, and all they did was love those kids. And from after that class, those classes were over, those kids would run to them and get hugs from them because so many of them have broken from their grandparents, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. I have heard you say this, and I'd like you to explain when you say many children of divorce who misbehave are actually seeking external regulation or management. What is that about?
Well, not just children of divorce, but children that have experienced any kind of a trauma. When you're under tremendous amounts of stress or you come up against a situation where you don't feel safe, your brain reverts to the lower levels of your brain. So I just read a book by Daniel Siegel. Oh, gosh, and I've just forgotten the name of that book. But I like how he explained it. And it was, if you think of the brain as like a 3-story house, and so that you have in the lower level, like in the basement, you have your heater and air conditioning unit and your hot water heater and things like that, the functioning of the house. The middle level, your ground level, is where you have your socialize and you eat your dinners and things like that. And then the upper level is where you maybe do your homework, you do your serious thinking. And he likens this to 3 parts of the brain. So the second story is actually the upper executive levels of the brain. But what we do many times as adults, we're in the second story and we're shouting at the child in the basement. So we're trying to help the child in the basement, but the child in the basement is just barely surviving. So they cannot think through the process of how to behave. So that's what I mean by their behaviors actually, they're seeking somebody to help them manage their behaviors because honestly, they cannot think how to do that. Does that make sense?
It totally does. I learned so much of the things about the brain from you, and I remember the train, and you talked about that, and the lower part of the brain, and the middle part, and the top front of the brain, frontal lobe. And I'm telling you, listeners, this woman knows so much. I love listening to her. In fact, last week I learned 2 things just then. So I'm thrilled you're sharing all of this. What are some things church leaders can do to minister to the stressed out child? Because I've seen them. They come in, and I remember one time in my teen class, a child was actually, you won't even believe it, Linda, but a child was actually dragged into the room by her grandmother to get her in the class, and she came in so under stress. And so what are some of the things that leaders can do to minister to the stressed out child?
Well, create a safe place. That's really important. And I think people just don't think of these simple things, but posting your schedule. See, we just think the child knows. So, yes, Sunday school going on and the kid comes in. Well, what the leader doesn't realize is this child may not have been here for 3 weeks because they went to dad's last week, and then they went to grandma's, and then went to dad's the next week, and we just expect that child to know what's coming next. They don't know what's coming. So post schedules in a place where everybody can see it and know what's going on. Just a simple thing like that. And, of course, do the rituals, have some type of handshake or a greeting. I always say to kids, you want a fist bump, you want a high five, some type of greeting, and let them make choices. When a child is in the divorce process, they don't feel like they have choices. Choices empower a child. And I can hear people going, empower them. I don't want them to have any more power. They're out of control now. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about they need to be empowered that they're an okay child, that they can make these decisions. So when they walk in, hey, Johnny, you want to sit in the chair? Or you want to sit over here in the circle time? You want to hang your coat up here? Or you want to put your coat on the chair? Any little choices they can make, empower them. Because remember, their parents were split, and nobody asked them if they wanted the divorce, and nobody asked them where they wanted to live. All those things they feel out of control. We need to give them some control over their environment. So choice is the big thing, hanging up schedules. I mean, I can just go on and on for how much, you want to do with these children. But when they're just totally out of control, standing back and looking at the child, and instead of saying, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? You say, in your mind, you say, wow, what has happened to this child?
That's right, ministering to the heart of the child. I remember a child in Sunday school that I went there, and he was just fidgeting and bugging everybody around him. And the teacher was talking and reading or whatever she was doing, and I took my hand and I rubbed it down his back. And I'm telling you, Linda, it was like turning a switch off. He absolutely calmed down. He listened to the teacher. So I thought, I'm going to try this again. So I took my hand away. It wasn't 30 seconds, and that child started bugging kids around him again and not listening. So I did it again, and I put my hand down his back, and he stopped like I had turned a switch off. At the end of the presentation of that teacher, I asked him questions about it. He had the answers. He had listened. He had known. He just needed that little regulation thing. And instead of saying, go to the corner, sit away from everybody else, sit back in that chair. And it was an amazing thing to watch. So what we're going to talk about, we have about a minute left, but we'll start with this. What are some suggestions that children's workers can give to single parents who have fidgety and hyper children? What can they do?
Well, not only to the parents, but to other volunteers. We forget that not all people that work in the church classes are educated. Many are just volunteers. So let me just give you a couple, and we can get back to this in just a second. But first of all, one very important one is tell the children what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. Tell them what you want them to do. So we'll start with that, and we'll come back, and I'll give you some more.
Thank you, Linda. We'll be back after the break.
Host and author Robyn returns after this short break.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi. Wednesday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Gerasi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to a place you'll find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from the stuff that gets in the way of your making emotional progress. Now with more of today's Chained No More, Robyn Beesman.
Linda, we're talking about single parents and how we can help them with their kids who are, they're hurt kids, and so they're fidgety and hyper, whatever. Do you think it's necessary too? Let's go on to that. From there, is necessary for churches to change their discipline policy when it comes to these kids?
Oh, absolutely. I do. For the most part. Let me just tell you a short little story. I don't think I told this last week. I had a little kid in my group, and he came in one night just so out of control. You could see it the minute he walked in the door. His face. He just brushed past me, and he went over and he just slumped down into a chair in an area that we weren't even using at that time. So, I went over and we talked, and I approached him, and every time we moved to different, like from the rug to the tables, and he was just out of control. And like you said, I sat with my back on him. At one point, I said his name, and I said, sit. And so he came over and said, I put my back on him, and we, I just kept it there, and we got through the circle time. But later on, he came over, and he whispered to me, and he said, do you take prayer requests? Didn't tell this last week, did I?
I don't think so.
Okay. So he says, do you take prayer requests? And I said, what? He said, do you take prayer requests? I said, what? 3 times, because I couldn't believe that I was hearing him. This child was out of control saying, do you take prayer requests, in a sweet little tender voice, And I was like, yes. Well, we take prayer requests every week. We have a prayer request book and everything. And I thought, surely he knew that. But then again, if he were always stressed out, he didn't know that. And I go, yes, what's wrong? And he raised up his shirt and he showed me his tummy, and his tummy had a series of a rash on it. And so I said, let's leave the group. And so I went over and I said, let's write that in the prayer book. And then I took him out in the hall with another teacher, and I said, Miss Becky, I want you to look at his tummy here. And she, of course, got all concerned. And I said, I think we just need to lay hands and pray for him. And so he told us what all had been going on, and we laid hands on him and we prayed over this child. We saw a completely different demeanor after the prayer. He still struggled a little bit, but he was a different child. So we just forget sometimes to pray for these children. So, let me just kind of go on with a couple other things that we just need to be aware of when we're working with these children. One thing is using the child's name. Research tells us when you use a child's name in everyday situations, it's a tension grabber. So it's like, John, sit. John, stand. And the other thing is, when you use their name, in PET scans will show that when they hear their name, it increases the blood flow to the part of the brain that plays an important role about their self. So many of these children divorced have a low self-esteem. We want them. We want the parts of the brain to light up. And so that's what we need to call their name. Not buddy or hey you, but actually say the child's name. And the next thing is, many times when you're trying to tell a child what to do, we use too many words. We just need to say the child's name and the verb. Johnny, sit. Jason, stand. Mary, sing. Whatever it is you want him to do. Name, verb. That's it. They can't handle all that language, all the verbiage, all those words. Name, verb. You want me to go on, or did you have another question?
Well, one of the things that came to mind was they live in such chaos, and they live in all this noise all the time. There's always TV on many times, the arguing, the chaos of everything. And I so agree with that. I know in DC4K that I always sat in the same place when they came in the room. Everything was in the same place all the time, because one of the things you taught me was that they need to have a space that is the same. They need some kinds of solidity in their life. And so to be able to do that, I was challenged with the name thing, Linda, because when I was at Camp Harlow, there was 3,500 kids a summer in that camp. And so I ended up calling them Sugar Babe and Honey Babe and Love, come here, Sugar Babe. And so when you taught me I had to know their names, that's when I really worked hard at that. And I did see a difference. So I really resonate with that. How can churches best support and encourage single parents and their kids in and out of the church?
Well, I think just like holding classes, teaching them to discipline their children, just having fun times. Oh my gosh, every Valentine's Day at my church now, we have a party and we go to the same restaurant. And the first time we did it, we had 28 people there. And we didn't even have that many people in our class. We just invite anybody and everybody that's single to our party. Right now, on the second Thursday night of the month, I just invite some moms. And we just go out and eat. We just have a good time. We laugh. One rule is we call ourselves a yah-yah club. We just want to have a good time. They just need to forget parenting for a little bit. And they need to be with like people of like mind. So I think fellowships, and also something else we forget. Many times, like you said, we have sympathy for these people, but they need our empathy. They need us to understand where they're coming from. And so I think giving single parents is not the right thing. Giving them stuff is not the right thing. I think sometimes they need to earn, like our divorce care group, our single parent group, we support the food pantry in our church. And so you just bring one box of spaghetti every once in a while. You're having the ability to contribute to help somebody else. And that's important for single parents, to have the ability to contribute and not feel like they're always taken away from the church. If you have a clothes closet and you're going to let single parents take clothes, ask them to mark clothes or ask them to come and organize clothes. And they don't have a lot of time, so just a few minutes or something they can do at home with their children. Then they're creating a ministry with their children.
You know what's so fun for me to hear, Linda, is all of these things you're saying is what I implemented in our ministry called Family Connections, because we had something called Friday Night at First, and it was the third Friday of every month. And it was incredible. It was those very things. We had a meal where other people from our groups from our church would prepare the meal and serve it, so they got to be connected with people of the church. We had a time of family fun where families did things together. They played games. It wasn't the kids over here and the parents were over there. They were having fun together. One time we were talking about security in the home, and we had a police officer come with his car, teach them those things, and then we would have a time of Let's Grow Hour, where the adults would go and get some practical tools and spiritual tools, and then I would usually take the teens, and then the children would have their own, and there was a nursery. And it was so helpful because it became a family to them. We did have clothes exchanges, and we had them run it. It's so fun to hear you, because it's exactly what we did, and it made this family. It made them so they were busy, and they didn't have to long for another relationship or try, the depression part. They looked forward to Friday Night at First. They began to babysit for each other. They began to build this whole family. It was excellent. Tell us about divorce care for kids. What do you think about that?
I think it's a lifesaver for children. I just don't think people realize what divorce care for kids can do. It's a group support. And we just don't think of children needing a group support. But they do. That's what I just get frustrated, because there should be DC4K in every church, on every corner, in every city in America and all over the world. Some of our biggest DC4K groups are in South Africa. Isn't that amazing? And it is. It just breaks my heart that children all over the world are going through this. But I think DC4K can be a game changer in a child's life. We now have children who went through divorce care for kids 10 years ago. They're now in their late teens, young adult years, It impacts their lives. It changes their lives. I'm just waiting for somebody to do a research project on how divorce care for kids can change the outcomes for many of these children of divorce.
Can you give a brief summary of what DC4K does? I mean, just, what you have in it.
Sure. I think probably the best way would just be to go through a short, like the minute a child walks into a room, what takes place. I think that would give you an idea. And of course, you can go to dc4k.org. You can watch some videos there. But basically, when a child enters the room, I'm just going to tell you about my group. They enter a room. There's a sign there. It says, "How do you want to be greeted?" And there's a picture of a fist bump and a high five and a hug. And then there's a circle with a slash that means "Don't touch me." So then they sign in, and there's a prayer book, and they can sign the prayer book. There's a job list. They can sign up to a job that night. And then there's what we call the Herbie's Feelings poster. They put their name in a Post-it note, and they put it on the picture of how they're feeling. This is huge for leaders to know what these children are feeling when they walk in the room. We have stations set up, which is there's like a table for snack, a table for art project, a table for activity book. It's the first 15, 20 minutes, depending on your time frame. The kids go into the stations. They make a choice of what they want to do. And there's an adult at each station. And we laugh and we talk. And we have a circle up time. And we present the scripture for the night. And we do some cross ladder on some stretching, because stretching and exercise releases the stress in the brain. And then we present what the lesson is about that night, anger or sadness or new relationships. We have a short video. Then we have a story. Then we go back to station time, again, where the children can choose. And while the kids have been in the group time, the leaders have changed the stations, a different snack, a different art project. And you just can't, oh my gosh, if you could just be in there and see those kids laughing and talking and sharing. The funniest thing is when we have chips and salsa for snack, we can't get them away from the snack table. They're like adults at a restaurant visiting, just laughing and talking. And then, so that goes on for about 20 minutes, and then we go back to the circle time. So you see, we're changing up a lot. Children's minds can't sit still for very long, so we're changing up a lot. And then we do a connecting, like a game or something. We have another short video, a Bible story video, and it's about Uncle Bill who's in an ice cream store, and he helps kids process their divorce and reads a Bible story. And then we have a closing time. And all this moves so rapidly. We really need 2 hours, and some churches do it 90 minutes. And then in my group, the kids have to clean up. I mean, they have to put chairs away, fold tablecloths, put tables in the closet. When we walk out the room, you can't even tell. There is nothing in that room. It's a bare floor. But those kids feel so connected and valued when they have to be part of that cleanup process.
Tell us about that area they go when they're upset. What's that called?
Safe place.
Yes.
You can have a safe place or a peace corner or somewhere in your room that if a child is upset during the process, they can just go to that area and calm down. And you can have different things in your safe place. It's not a punishment. It's not a timeout. It's just a place where a kid might need to go and be alone. And some kids will go, in our group, they'll just go over and grab a blanket and cover up their head and sit on the rug for a few minutes, which is fine if that's what they want to do, just to have to isolate themselves for a little bit.
What I liked about that, it helps them regulate themselves instead of some punitive thing. They get to go there and just relax. And I remember sitting crisscross with kids at that place just for a little bit and just hearing what was on their heart when they would let it down there. And brilliant program, Linda, brilliant. And I know God led you to do it. And I saw the change in the children. That's what got me so excited for what I'm doing today, because I got to learn how God can heal the life of a small child. He certainly can heal the life of an adult. And it started with that. And I really want to thank you for doing that. We're going to have one more break in just a few seconds here, and we'll talk just a little bit about how they can get a hold of you and how they can get your books and stuff. So on the other side of the break, we'll come back one more time with Linda Jacobs.
Host and author Robyn returns after this short break.
Military Network Radio, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, bringing you dynamic interviews each week and fresh information of value to improve your outlook, actions, and encourage each member of your family. From service members, wounded warriors, veterans, military spouses, caregivers, parents, and children, everyone serves, and together we can make a difference. You can find our show at our website, www.militarynetworkradio.com, and at toginetradio.com/Military Network Radio. Everyone serves, and together we make a difference.
Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Be here for Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer, Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Tricia will dig deep into topics that matter most to women, inspiring women to make a change in their own lives and to make a difference in the world, and maybe even deep within their own hearts. Tricia is a wife, mom, speaker, family expert, and author of 24 books. For more information on Tricia and Living Inspired, go to her website, TriciaGoyer.com. That's TriciaGoyer.com. Tricia's vision is to be the voice of hope and possibility for women of all ages. Her intention is to serve ordinary women by encouraging extraordinary things with God's help. Tricia expresses real life, real hope for real women. Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to a place you'll find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from the stuff that gets in the way of your making emotional progress. Now with more of today's Chained No More, Robyn Beesman.
We're here with Linda Jacobs, our guest today, talking about children of divorce and how to help and parent them. Linda, I wanted to go back to DC4K just for a second. Could you give me some of the topics, the process that kids go through? You've talked about what we do in those classes, but what are the topics that bring these kids to such healing?
One thing DC4K does is we try to follow the same topics that the parents are doing in divorce care, to help create a better single-parent family at home. So when the parents are talking about anger, the kids are, sadness, etc. The first one we start out with is we want every child to know that no matter what your living situation is, it's okay. God loves you in whatever kind of family you're in. So that's the first topic that we start with. My mind escapes me on the second topic is, the third topic is anger. Sadness, we talk a lot about relationships. One of the most fun ones that people wouldn't believe is the financial unit, session 8. And, I'm telling you, I love that unit, and the kids do too. We just don't think about including children in, but, many times when you ask them what child support is, they think it's just to buy games and things for themselves, and they get mad at their parent that won't buy them stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so that's just one big unit that we help them. And we talk about your needs and your wants and what the difference is. And I actually have had parents call me later in the week or text me and say, thanks a lot for your financial situation. Every time I go to the store, my son goes, do you really need that? Do you just want that? It changes their lives at home. And new relationships, we talk about, there are going to be new people come into your lives. And, of course, we're leading up to if the parent starts today. But many children have to move. They change neighborhoods. They change schools. They change childcare. So that's a big issue for children, to help them form new relationships. We talk about what the Bible says about divorce. We tell the children that it says divorce is wrong in the Bible, but God still loves their parent. We all sin, and God still loves us no matter what. So that just kind of gives you a brief view of some of the things that we talk about.
Thank you. What I saw is, again, it's a beautiful thing to watch them first come in the classroom being so nervous and scared. And then around, 9, the kids begin to so change, and they come in laughing, or they come in with their eyebrows up and their faces up, and they're looking forward to, and that God's doing a business, and it's just so much fun. One of the things I found with DC4K as well is when the parents would come in, they're not sure either. They go to a lot of the times they're going to divorce care for the adults, and they're living through their own stuff, and they feel comfortable to bring the kids into DC4K, but they're going through changes and struggles too. So another part of what we did was to just kind of minister to the parents as well and to love on them. I do remember one time a mom came in and she was just coming at it. She was talking about her ex and their kid's dad and what he did. And the child, Linda, was standing right beside me. Mm. And I said, oh, no, why don't you go over there and I'm going to keep talking to Mama. And I had to go. I said, we just can't talk about their dad in such a bad way in front of the child. And it really hurts them. And she said, I guess I never thought of that. The right. Parents are in their own crisis. They don't understand. So I think that we as DC4K, you and I, like we talked last week, our hearts are so for children that we can come alongside of them and help them with those things. And then the mom went and she went to her class and we were fine. But to protect these children from listening to all of the horrible things, this should, like you keep saying, this should be a safe place for these children to be. And we need to show them. I always say that we extend the arms of Jesus to these kids and to these adults. They're going through a lot of hurt, and we all go through times. So we need to extend the arms of Jesus to them. As far as attract families to your church and keep them coming back, what do you hear back about that book? And when people are reading it, how has it helped them?
Well, it's we have an interim minister at our church right now, and he's an older man. And one of the ways that helped him, which surprised me, I just wrote a small unit on electronic steeples. You know, somebody used to move into a town, they looked for the steeples in the town. That's where they knew the church was. And so churches don't necessarily have steeples anymore, but they will check your websites out. And so he was amazed at all the social media that he was not familiar with. That's an older pastor. Some of the younger pastors, like I said before, are surprised at the single parents. They're surprised at different kinds of families that are out there in the world. It just gives you a good overview of our world today, which, you know, if you're a pastor, you just don't know what you don't know. If you've never been divorced or in a divorced family like you, Robyn, you didn't have an idea until you started working in the camps for children. And we just have to keep that in mind. And so I think Attract Families has opened the eyes of many children's pastors and other pastors to know what's out there, what we need to be looking for and what we need to be doing. And there is a chapter on what to do with challenging behavior children. We have not educated church leaders and child care people to deal with these children with challenging behaviors. And most of these children have experienced some type of trauma. Every time a child acts out, there is a reason that they're
That's right.
out.
I know, and I so agree. There just needs to be more education. This isn't dissing a church by any means. This is just, you're right. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't mean to not see single parents. I just didn't see them. I didn't know. It wasn't part of my experience. But I wanted to learn so badly because it's hurting people. And the Lord has just brought us through all of these different things, all these resources. Oh, my word. I'm excited for what's going to happen there. Can you talk about how people can get a hold of you, Linda, and what they'd be interested, how you can come and speak at their event or want to connect with you?
You can email me at ljacobs, that's J-A-O-C, I can't spell my last name, J-A-C-O-B-S. I never spell it. ljacobs at DC, the number 4, DC4K.org, ljacobs at DC4K.org. You can contact me via the chat, blog.dc4k.org. I get a lot of contacts that way. You can also go to the HLP4.com site, and you can contact me that way. I do speak at a lot of churches. I speak to children's ministers. I speak at single-parent retreats. We got a big retreat coming up in June, and I know you're going to be having Jennifer Maggie on your group, and I'm excited about speaking at our single mom event in June. So, if you're at that conference, look me up. I love going out. I do, like I said, I do single-parent retreats. I'm doing a big one in August here in Florida. So I love what I do. God's given me a passion. I don't want other people to experience what I did, so that's why I want to help others.
I can't wait to see what God's going to do through you. I know what I've learned from you, so I've been wanting to have you out here for a long time, and I love doing this together. talk to me about some things you'd like to say to single parents, and then also things that you would like to say to churches, Linda, from your heart.
Well, single parents, don't give up. It's a hard journey. It can be done. It takes stamina and grit and determination, and it takes somebody walking along beside you. I know, I used to just say to single parents, just pray about it, not realizing that, when I was a single mom, I would get on my knees and I couldn't pray. All I could do is moan. And I tell single parents, God hears every moan. It says in Romans 8 that you can just go to God, you can moan and sigh, and the Holy Spirit will take those moans and sighs to the Lord. And I tell single parents, read Psalms 139, read it over and over and over and over, because God designed you. He knows when you rise and when you sit. He knows all about you, and He also knows about your children. So don't give up. Turn to God, even if you feel like God is not there. He's just waiting on you. He's waiting for you to work through some of these issues. For churches, I would like to say really, really look at your discipline policies. I know a lot of churches do 1, 2, 3 strikes and you're out, and this used to work. It doesn't work anymore for hurting children. Approximately 35% of all children in the United States live in a single-parent home. That means when you look at your Sunday school class, 1 out of 3 children should be living in a single-parent home, and that's not the case. So churches, please reach out. Single parents are raising a large portion of our next generation, of our next lawyers and doctors and congressmen and politicians and presidents, and the list goes on and on. So please, please think through this, pray through this, and reach out.
Thank you. I learned a lot about the churches, and I grew up in the church all my life. So I always say I went to church before I was born, because my dad's a pastor. But to come to talk to the pastors and about family connections or single parent families kind of things, and it was really difficult. It was really, really difficult. And some people thought that it was we're condoning divorce by having a single parent family ministry, and through the years we got to show them that this was opening our arms to everybody who comes and wants to learn about the Lord God. The Lord will take care of what He needs to take care of. Our job is to accept and to love and to care and to bring them in. And these wonderful children, these loving kids that have so much hurt inside, to be able to minister with the love of God to them. Linda, thank you so much for being with us and encouraging our listener about something so important. I will say, trust me when I say, and I will say it again, you will be back. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. Next week, we're going to have Krista Smith. Krista Smith is the woman who wrote The Big D, Divorce Through the Eyes of a Teen. We will go through some of the same things, divorce, how it affects teens and how we can parent teens better. It's in a different level. I was going to write a divorce care for teens. And I remember calling you, Linda, and my heart hurt for the kids, and I know that teens were going to go into their future taking their hurt in there too, and I just wanted to do something. And you said, I don't think you need to write anything, Robyn. You just need to contact Krista Smith. And I did call her in Minnesota, and we did talk, and I led that program and saw the same amount of healing in those teens that I saw in the children. So we want to talk about that next week. Thank you for being a part of ministry, and I'm going to say thank you for saying yes to the Lord. Yeah, you've lived a lot in your life, but you've used it for good, and I am so blessed to know you, and I look forward to the next time that we're here together. Can I just close in a quick prayer?
Absolutely.
Lord God, thank you so much for this show. It's a great opportunity for listeners to hear and to have some hope and encouragement. Lord God, thank you for Linda Jacobs, how you've called her to this ministry. And I pray that you will use her in mighty ways, continue to use her. Thank you for the thousands and thousands of families that are being helped by what she's doing. I pray for an amazing thing within her ministry, that she will see your hand at work. Open up doors of opportunity for her, Lord God, that she can reach out to these families. Thank you for connecting us in the way that you did, for not only friendship, Lord, but certainly for ministry passion. Thank you for putting us together. I pray for next week's now. I pray for listeners as they listen to this, Lord, that you will continue to give them encouragement. Thank you for loving us, God, and thank you for making us who you made us to be. May our parents listen and help their children in the name of God, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Linda, so much. And we will, I'm sure, we'll see you back on this radio show soon.
Tuning in to Chained No More, a show of answers and encouragement for what you face today. You can learn more about Robyn B. Ministries, read her blog, and purchase encouraging resources at www.robynbministries.com. There, you will be able to purchase the small group curriculum and self-discovery versions of Chained No More, as well as Robyn's latest CD, Through the Rain, Crisis to Hope. Books are also available on Amazon.com.